In Asia's past, the lives of people and animals were so strongly linked for so many thousand years that some animals became part of the human spiritual world. And millions of people simply revered the lives of all creatures. In modern Asia, animals are still treasured by compassionate religions, and in many cities, they're as much part of daily life as they have been for centuries. But Asia's cities are shrinking the wilderness around them, as more land is cultivated to feed more and more people. In the competition with people for food and space, some wild animals will be natural survivors. But there are others who will need help. Many ancient cities like Bharatpur in northern India are a home for rhesus macaques. Since the city's first foundation, generations of these wild animals have lived side by side with people. To be so successful, they've had to be adaptable and aggressive, as individuals and as a tribe. But even in this robust society, youngsters are well protected in early life. The daily routines of Bharatpur's people shape the lifestyles of the macaques. They know that wherever humans go, they leave a trail of feeding opportunities. They've learned to trade on the townspeople's best instincts, and right in the heart of the city, they make a very good living. For some, it's perhaps a little too good. Every day provides good pickings. This rubbish disposal service is as much benefit to the city as it is to animals. But most truly wild animals have to stay beyond the city limits, where the living's harder. Golden jackals survive by living discreetly on the borders of the human world. Always secretive and alert, they pick their way through a countryside where good land is heavily cropped, and herds are carefully guarded. Although people share the land with jackals, they rarely more than glimpse their lives as they hunt and raise their families. This female is part of a family of 3 adults, including her mate and a juvenile daughter, who are sharing the job of caring for 5 puppies. She lost 2 sickly pups a few weeks ago, but even so, she's barely enough milk to feed the hungry survivors. With the pup's appetite briefly satisfied, she can rest before her next hunting expedition. Their older sister will play an important part in their lives over the coming months. By guarding them at the den, she'll free both parents to hunt. The pup's play suddenly turns to pleading, which the mother tries to satisfy by licking them. but they worry at her mouth, instinctively encouraging her to feed them with regurgitated food. With the temperature soaring above 100 degrees, all wildlife has to come frequently to water. By approaching quickly and stealthily, she may get a kill. But every other animal here is also on the highest alert, to avoid becoming prey. She can't afford to wait here for another chance. Every 2 hours she has to return to the den to feed her pups. So she must find food as soon as possible. Back at the den, the watchkeeper's acute hearing is always on sentry duty. As the pups play, they begin to understand their own strengths and weaknesses and learn their place in the pack. They're beginning to discover their world. Their first adventures are developing senses and physical skills they'll need to survive. The adults often forage together, but if food's in desperately short supply, they'll fight over it. They share the responsibility of feeding the pups, but each adult puts its own survival first. A weak parent can't feed or protect a litter, so the male takes the first lean pickings. When she returns, the mother has nothing for the pups, and they're so demanding that she has to warn them off. She even checks around the den for insects to eat. And worse, her milk is running dry. To satisfy them, she'll have to take bigger risks. In the short time left before dusk, she'll chance a visit to the human world. Crows are a sign that there may be some scraps for the pups. She's at the trigger point of flight, in extreme danger of attack by dogs or people. With nightfall, even more secretive hunters emerge from hiding. It might look familiar, but this is no ordinary cat. Like the jackal, the fishing cat has close relatives that live with people. And like the jackal, its technique for surviving the modern world is to avoid human contact. But the fishing cat's secretive life is affected by human beings, who can damage the waterways where it hunts. But people also provide other prey, like rats and mice and domestic poultry. The fishing cat's hunting ground feeds crowds of others during the day. This reserve near Bharatpur was first created for hunting, then became a bird sanctuary and a refuge for nilgai, large antelope whose raids on crops made them a pest to farmers. The Sarus cranes built their nests before the worst of the summer heat, although a few of these giants still seem to be advertising for mates. Troops of rhesus macaques make frequent visits to this man-made oasis for the simple pleasure of cooling off. But the crowds of animals in this attractive refuge make it no place for jackals raising families. The hunting's lean in the harsher land they've chosen, but there's less risk of discovery. The pups will have a long wait as their parents forage further afield. They're watchkeepers suffering from hunger and thirst too, and as the hours drag on, she finally gives in to her needs. Almost stealthily, she gradually moves further from the den. It seems like the most selfish of desertions, but she really has no choice. Normally, young pups would be guarded constantly. Only poor hunting and dreadful heat has forced this early risk. As they travel further from the den, the adults comb their territory not just for prey, but for clues given by other scavengers. Vultures cover great distances in search of food, unlike jackals whose range is limited while they've young to feed. The flocking vultures are a promising sign that there's food nearby. Overnight, a tiger has killed a straying bull. A farmer's loss could be a lifesaver for the jackals. But first to interrupt the vulture's feast is an enormous wild boar. He'd be such a dangerous opponent that at first only the male jackal ventures into the arena. His mate keeps her distance. He's very uncertain of the boar's reactions if he starts to feed. Such a monster could cause serious injury or death. The vultures are a minor foe and easily driven off. The attacks are a sign of his frustration, because even though the boar seems tolerant, the jackal can't feed without risking a surprise attack. But the balance is swinging in the jackal's favor. With all three jackals at the kill, they at last have a chance to begin feeding. While one attacks the carcass, the others keep a wary eye on the boar. Perhaps their squabbling finally warns the boar he's outnumbered, but he suddenly departs, leaving the carcass to the jackals. If they're lucky, this bounty from the human world may last a few more days and mean the difference between life and death for their litter. Alone at the den for the first time, their playful adventures have turned to watchful anxiety. And then, strange noises in the forest spark a panic. The great danger to the pups from inquisitive rhesus is that they could become playthings to be fought over, and probably killed. The intrusion so terrifies them that they react aggressively to the homecoming parents. The scent of the macaques pollutes the whole area and tells the tale of how close they've come to discovering the pups. But now they're safe and carefree again, and hungry. They clamor to their mother for food, and she regurgitates their first substantial meal. The adults will have to feed their pups like this for many months, until they're strong enough to hunt for themselves. And for all that time, they'll have to stay a step ahead of danger. But by working together, the jackals will bring their pups to maturity. Adaptable, resourceful, and secretive, they're well equipped for their lives on the outskirts of modern civilization. In Asia, it's sometimes the past which shelters today's animals. For 600 years, thick jungle hid the wonders of the great city of Polonnaruwa in Sri Lanka. Today, the ruins are historical and religious treasures, and a sanctuary for hundreds of macaques, whose ancestors probably lived here when the city was young. These are toque macaques, and this is one of many troops that live in the sanctuary. Like all macaques, their tribes follow strict political codes. They have their own dynasties, which become powerful, then fail as dramatically as their human counterparts. But in this society, it's mothers and daughters, and grandmothers, sisters and aunties who inherit the dynasty. They never leave the troop. Males are always outsiders, who become accepted as mates, then band with other males to defend the troop. Play fighting rehearses them for battles they'll have to fight to hold their territory. It's the females who know their home range intimately, who lead the group to feeding areas, under the watchful eyes of the males. The macaques can eat only a few kinds of leaves, but almost anything else. What they can't eat now, they store in large cheek pouches. But at the moment, the greatest resource in this troop's territory is a fig tree, laden with fruit that's almost ripe. It's vital for toques to raise many young. Large troops can forage confidently, defend their food supplies, and more easily bring their fragile youngsters to maturity. Even the youngest of the Polonnaruwa toques has a special link with humans. For 30 years, every animal has been identified and monitored over its lifetime by Dr. Wolfgang Dittes and his field researchers. During the long and detailed study, Dittes has seen the many problems that humans can cause their monkey neighbors, even when they live in a sanctuary. Some of the macaque troops have become unusually large and powerful by eating food that's brought here. The ruins are a popular tourist destination. On holiday weekends, as many as 10,000 people see the wonders of this once lost city. So many leftover lunches fueled a population explosion in some of the macaque groups. Their numbers doubled in only a few years, and they've become highly skilled at unlocking more food. Regular cleanup campaigns aim to choke back the food bonanza, which will gradually reduce the macaque population. But in the meantime, whenever there are fewer tourists, there are too many monkeys and not enough natural food. The large rubbish bin groups fight amongst themselves and also raid the food supplies of neighboring troops. So the fig tree troop may have to drive off invaders who could steal the future of their next generation. As well as guarding the troops' resources, the senior male also protects his own interests. Any likely suitor for his wives gets a stern warning, but he's more likely to take his anger out on the erring wife. But while he's solving one domestic crisis, there's another one brewing. A senior female is courting a subordinate male. Her high color confirms that she's ready to mate. She checks that the senior male isn't nearby, then stealthily leads the way into the bushes. This isn't just casual sex, it's political high drama. The mating is a serious challenge to the senior male, so this time he attacks the male offender. But the troop's about to face a far more serious problem. Invasion by a hungry rubbish bin group. The senior male's first concern is for the safety of his wives. The invaders look strong, so before trouble starts, he protects his harem and children by aggressively chasing them out of harm's way. His lieutenants are in charge of defense. But they fail to scare the enemy off, and there's a brief skirmish. The senior male stays back, carefully guarding his family. After such an aggressive challenge, the lieutenants make a diplomatic mission to appease the invaders. But the trespassers are confident and launch a full-scale attack. For a few minutes, the battle hangs in the balance, but the invaders are too strong. The fig tree troop is driven off. Some of the victors have been wounded, but they have won the fig tree. And for the next few days at least, secured a future for their youngsters. There's enough for all of them to gorge on fruit, and have more for later. The losers retreat to the limits of the forest and the border of the sanctuary. Beyond the canal lies unknown territory and modern civilization. They've suffered a huge defeat, but they must still get on with the daily business of finding food. There's a bonus on the roadside, rice which is spilled from passing trucks. It's a risky harvest for the macaques, but they successfully dodge the traffic. Until a macaque or a driver makes a fatal error. Unfortunately, these days it's not an uncommon end for toque macaques. As they move still further from the sanctuary, and deeper into human territory, the younger males take over the job of leading the troop. They'll be the first to encounter danger as they act as pathfinders for the females. There's another man-made risk in using power lines as a pathway, but it keeps them clear of other dangers below. But the toques are still confident foragers, and people who leave their houses unguarded are likely to find the unwelcome results of a troop visit when they return. Game playing is also part of everyday life for macaques, and this one has intriguing possibilities. Because of their past experience, the macaques associate human beings with predictable supplies of food. But raiding the breakfast leftovers suddenly becomes very risky. The senior male's first warning call is lost in the feeding frenzy. The dangers of foraging in the human world become too great, and they flee for the safety of the sanctuary. Back on home ground, they head for a familiar feeding opportunity. Offerings to compassionate Buddha sometimes include morsels of food. Caught between aggressive macaque neighbors and a shrinking natural world, the troop will struggle to survive. But they're lucky to live amongst tolerant people with high respect for life and long experience of sustaining it. The Tok Sanctuary is only part of the extraordinary heritage of this small island. For over 2,000 years, the land has been reshaped to human needs, sometimes on a huge scale. The ancient people created farmland from bone-dry earth by building great lakes, which still capture monsoon rains. Sri Lankans call them tanks. Some are vast, and there are hundreds of them. The tanks allowed the great civilizations to flourish here over 1,000 years ago. But it might never have happened without the help of elephants. Their feet pounded the foundations of the cities. Their strength hauled millions of tons of stone for the dams and temples. They harvested timber from the forests. Elephants lent their power to human ambitions to raise the mightiest shrines of the Buddhist world. And in Buddhist mythology, elephants are believed to uphold the universe. Nowhere else are elephants more highly regarded. But since the beginning of the century, their numbers have fallen from 12,000 to about 3,000. And only some enjoy ideal conditions like these in Udawalawe National Park. When the surrounding country is short of food, the numbers of resident elephants are boosted by herds which migrate here to feed. Each adult needs about 400 pounds of food every day. So for a herd of 20, that makes 8,000 pounds a day, nearly 60,000 pounds a week, which they'll need for the 50 or so years of their lives. When elephant families meet after months or just hours apart, they exchange greetings. Elephants do have good memories for each other, and particularly for places where they can find food. At this time of year, the park has rich grass along the edges of its large reservoir, while the surrounding country is dry. So elephants travel miles to get here. So do tourists, and today they'll see a rare sight, a tusker. In Sri Lanka, only a very few males carry tusks, and they're usually larger than other males. The bright red patches near his eyes show he's in must, the male breeding condition, when his testosterone level soars to 60 times normal. Some of these youngsters may be his offspring from earlier visits. Now, the large groups of elephants which come here to feed include females who are ready to breed. He's probably mated already, and now he's keeping other males at bay by guarding the herd. But soon he'll leave them, perhaps for many months. Males take no part in rearing their offspring. Their youngsters are raised in the stable matriarchal society of the herd, learning from their mothers, aunties, and older sisters. There was a time many years ago when thousands of elephants lived the good life in conditions like these, on the border of Sri Lanka's wet zone. But these are lucky elephants. Many now have to make their living in far harder circumstances. The large dry zones of Sri Lanka can go without rain for 7 months, and in Yala National Park much of the water is no use to animals. It's salty. It's a coastal park, and in the summer the hot blast of trade wind gales accelerates the drying of the land. And the peak of the dry is still 3 months away. Elephants here have to put in long hours to meet their 400-pound-a-day feed quota. But this male's also following a dietary preference. Elephants love the roots of the lakeshore grasses and spend hours carefully excavating and assembling them into mouthfuls. It's one thing for a solitary male to feed himself in these surroundings. A senior female leads her family from one food supply to the next for about 16 hours every day. A radio collar allows long-term tracking of her movements, as she follows her own memory map of types of food, time and distance. There's little left of the grass they prefer, so she takes them to patches of trees and shrubs. But for a family of 10, the food won't last long. Even if there was enough for the herd to browse for many hours, she has other problems. An adult's trunk extends its reach above the ground, and a well-trained trunk is very adept at plucking favorite food. But there are more than adults in her family. Youngsters lack the reach and skills to feed efficiently, so she has to allow for their needs too. And not everything green is palatable to elephants. So adult females balance a complex combination of needs as they choose a route for their families through the jungle. Yala wasn't always a wilderness. Once there were green fields of rice and reservoirs here, and a city full of people. The days of the kingdom of Rahuna ended 1,000 years ago, and with them went most of the water. Elephants have to drink copiously about every 6 hours. When they make their way to water in Yala, it may be to one of the ancient tanks, or to water holes dug by today's park managers. Aggressively flapping ears and trumpeting signal that the herd wants sole possession of the water hole. Even crocodiles won't tangle with adult elephants, though they might make a grab for a baby's trunk. It's the croc's most recent prey that denies the herd the water they need. The putrid remains of a dead buffalo stop the herd in its tracks, and without the senior female signal, not one of them will go to the tainted water. She's no choice but to lead them off again. Around water, buffalo are the real villains of the piece. Many have bred with stray domestic animals. They're never far from water, and often in it. Wallowing helps them control body temperature, but makes it difficult for elephants to find the clean water they prefer. The sight of buffalo at a water hole, and worse yet, taking to the water, is enough to provoke a lone male. He can't afford for them to take up residence, and moves them on. An adult's dexterity with its trunk only comes with practice. When they arrive at a large waterhole, elephant herds can stay for hours. A young elephant's struggle to control over 50,000 trunk muscles is helped by mimicking adults. But for many months, they'll have to use their trunks as snorkels while they drink with their mouths. But after the need to drink is satisfied, there's the sheer pleasure of bathing. Adults and older juveniles make their own way from the water and begin feeding. They know the herd will soon continue its wanderings in search of more food. But younger herd members sometimes have to be ordered from the water. Many messages which elephants send each other are subsonic, outside human hearing range. But instant and simultaneous actions in the herd are often clues that instructions are being transmitted. But there's a rebellious streak in nearly every elephant child. Anxious aunties rush to retrieve him. It's their job to teach him that he goes where the herd goes. It's a rule he's not happy with. He makes one last break for the enticing water. And then, has a very sudden attack of obedience. The hot winds blow for months. Water becomes more and more scarce. Some solitary animals can meet their needs by digging for water, getting an extra bonus from minerals leached from the soil. But even they may soon have to move on. It's outside the national parks that elephants run into trouble. The needs of 18 million people are rapidly shrinking the forests of this small island. As elephants follow their traditional migration paths, they cross and recross trails cut by modern civilization. Jungle is often slashed and burned illegally, and rich crops planted right in the paths of hungry elephants. In elephant country, farmers work urgently to bring in their harvest before nightfall. If they leave threshed rice in the fields, it'll be gone by the morning, and months of hard labor wasted. The problem of invading elephants is worst where cropland encircles patches of jungle. Farmers face the huge challenge of keeping hungry and intelligent animals at bay. At dusk, they begin to appear at the edge of the jungle. Farmers protect their crops by manning watchtowers and set warning lights outside their storehouses. But elephants have an uncanny habit of turning up where they're least expected. Of course, it's not by accident. They can track human activities with their acute hearing and sense of smell, and choose their best opportunities from night to night. Fires and torches can keep some animals away, but as they become more familiar with these deterrents and hungrier, more elephants take the risk of raiding. Sometimes it almost seems that elephants can stage diversions. While farmers are defending crops at the front line, other raiders take advantage of unguarded grain stores. Houses have sometimes been almost completely demolished by elephants searching for food. They can vacuum up rice in the same volumes as they can water, and quickly dispose of the profits of months of work. If rockets and firecrackers are all they meet, they're lucky. This tusker was blinded by a shotgun blast. Others are caught in snares or suffer other injuries. And these are the survivors of the struggle for space. More than 100 animals a year die in the conflict with people. There's a growing herd of orphaned, displaced or injured animals who need refuge. The elephant orphanage at Penuela is a favorite tourist attraction and a symbol of the intensity of the elephant problem. Returning these animals to the wild is a slender possibility. And elephants aren't the only casualties. They kill dozens of people every year. For this religious nation, the conflict with the elephants they value so highly causes deep distress. But Sri Lanka's history points the way ahead. The far-sighted builders of the ancient tanks also created wildlife sanctuaries. Today, reserves still shelter elephants, and with them jackals, macaques, and many other animals. Sri Lanka's and Asia's challenge is to strengthen and defend these refuges between two worlds.